Thank you for having me here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about and sharing UPS's journey, sustainability. But I want this to be kind of a two-way communication. I want you to walk away with, items and things that you can use not only in what your current position, your current job, or your current company today. So please ask questions along the way. We're going to talk a lot about greenhouse gas management, really what UPS's approach is to greenhouse gas management. You've heard a terminology, you might have heard terminology about measure, manage, and mitigate. And I'll relate how we deal with greenhouse gases and kind of our whole sustainability story to those three words: measure, manage, and mitigate. Give a little background of UPS. Okay, we're a global company operating in over 220 countries. We have three distinct business segments that we report on, both in our financial reporting and our sustainability reporting. That's important because I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But we have our U.S., what we call our U.S. package operations, right? So that's the Browne delivery vehicles you see every day up on the streets. We have our international package operations. That's our Browne trucks that we operate in the rest of the world. And then we have our supply chain and freight, logistics portion of our business, where we do a lot of heavy freight, a lot of freight forwarding, logistics using all different modes of transportation, whether it's air, ground, rail, ocean. We do a lot of ocean moves, believe it or not. A lot of distribution, networking with our customers. If you were to, let's say, for example, a Sprint customer, and you want to call and get that new Samsung Note 2, whatever that phone upgrade is, chances are when that delivers to your house, it's actually coming from a UPS warehouse that's managing the distribution of the Sprint networks. And so we have a whole side of logistics business that folks are not typically used to knowing about UPS. Over 100,000 vehicles, 220 countries, almost 3,000 facilities. So when I talk a little bit about data and the importance of data management, it's a huge job for us in trying to collect all this data on 3,000 facilities globally. So I have enough trouble just capturing that data in the US, probably a lot of you do too. Now I'm trying to imagine going to Latin America and Asia and Europe and all these different countries that are speaking different languages and using different units and trying to gather all that information up. So it's a challenge. A little bit about our journey. We've been dealing with sustainability for a little over 10 years now. Back in the early 2000s, our management committee made the decision that we want to report on sustainability. In 2003, we published our first sustainability report. And back then, it was only about 1 to 2 to 3 people working our sustainability function. Really, it was really one person dealing with sustainability, the whole organization, and then the other two were kind of helping with the report. But we came out kind of early as a leader. We were recognized as a leader in sustainability early on because of those early actions. And back then we were reporting on was just our U.S. operations. So we talked about the 3 business units, just our U.S. operations. And that's only because that's all we had the data on. And what we've noticed over the years, going through the 2000s up to 2006, is that a lot of other companies, a lot of our competitors were starting to also come into this space. Where we were early and recognized as a leader, we didn't really do anything different. We were starting to just do the same thing, and others were coming in, the bar was starting to raise, and we recognized internally early on that we needed to do something internally with our sustainability programs and our sustainability initiatives. So at that point, we actually started building a governance internally, and the reason why I talk about this is important to have a good governance and good buy-in to your organization. When you only had that one person in a corner doing sustainability in a large corporation, it doesn't get much traction. It doesn't get much traction at all. It's an uphill battle a lot of times. So we started putting in what we call steering committees and working committees. We established this entire governance structure starting in the 2008. But one of the things we really missed, and I should say we had this steering committee, we had this working committee, we had this great governance structure, but we still weren't gaining the traction we wanted to. So back 2 years ago, we identified functions, and we knew that there were functions that were just key internally to sustainability and to really drive and embed sustainability, right? Marketing, public relations, our automotive function, our finance, our procurement department. There were functions that were just key. So what we did is now we've put sustainability folks, we call them directors, in each one of those functions. So now that director who reports to public relations or procurement is also responsible for sustainability within their function, to grow, to cultivate, to embed sustainability within their function. And we've actually been having some great successes since we put those directors in place over the past 2 years. So that was one of the lessons learned for us, and really where we've developed and matured over the past 10 years of going from one person to really having over 50 people within the organization dealing with and touching sustainability every single day. Materiality. I want to cover materiality real quickly because it's important. It's something we didn't do right away, but something we did, and it's something that really helped us. So materiality is going through this exercise of identifying what's important to your business, but what's important to your stakeholders. We used a third party, outside third party, and this is something that you really need to open up your doors and open up, be a little more transparent on, and have the ability to have external folks come in and look at you and give you advice and tell you what's good, what's bad, et cetera. So we hired a third-party consultant, BSR, Business for Social Responsibility, is the one who helped us with our materiality. And we looked at a host, it was almost close to 100 different sustainability issues. And we rate and rank them not only on what's important to us as a business, so the x-axis is what's important to us as a business. I know I keep getting in your way, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What's important to us was on the x-axis. What's important to our customers, what's important to our employees, what's important to us as a business is the x-axis. And what's important to the external stakeholders, right? Could be regulators, could be NGOs, communities that we operate in, activists, investors, et cetera. And what they want to know, what's important to them regarding UPS. And that was ranked on the y-axis. So after you go through this entire exercise, what happens is the items up in the upper right-hand quadrant now float to top as being important. And the areas that we tend to concentrate on, because you're going to find that there's just so many things you can really talk about and discuss with sustainability. It's such a wide topic. It's such a wide range of issues. And it's impossible really to cover every single issue, every single thing, every single year, and every single report. So now we started putting our focus on the top right-hand quadrant. It's important to the business, and it's important to our stakeholders. And you'll see that really helped us kind of define and really helped us with our focus of where we wanted to go as a company. So it was a great exercise to go through. Again, an exercise I would recommend anyone to go through if you're thinking. And I'm sure that there's probably a whole wide range of where folks are in their sustainability journey in a room. So probably people starting out or not starting at all. And there's probably companies here that are probably well established. So wherever you are in that journey, though, it's a good exercise to go through. All right, so now into the nitty-gritty of the data. Again, I'm going to talk a lot about greenhouse gas emissions today. You know, when you burn 1 billion gallons of fuel a year, you have a huge environmental impact that you have to deal with. So that's one of our main focuses. There was a lot of other main focuses up on that materiality chart. And one thing I wanted to mention about the materiality chart is that just because it's not in the top right-hand quadrant doesn't mean we don't address it or it's not important. I'm just saying our focus is on there. We still address and deal with a lot of the other issues also. So measurement and reporting. You know, there's 3 adjectives or 3 words that we like to describe or use with our measurement and reporting. And there was these 3 adjectives, right? Transparent, comprehensive, and credible. It was important to us as a company. We had a goal, we had a priority objective that we wanted our data, we wanted our reporting to be transparent, to be comprehensive, and to be credible. And what I mean by transparent is we use what's called the Global Reporting Initiative, or GRI, protocol to help to report on. So when you do a sustainability report, you know, it's a voluntary report, but we'll use the GRI as a protocol of what we report on and how we report on it. And they have different application levels, A, B, and C. A being the most transparent, right? C being the bottom. So last year, it was our first year. It took a while to get to that A level of transparency, but we're there. And then you have the plus. So when you see an A plus, a B plus, or C plus, the plus means is that you had a third party assure your report, right? Credibility. This is the credibility part. So now we have a third party that comes in, looks at all of our data, looks at all of our, whether it's qualitative or quantitative issues that we're reporting on, to actually validate that everything we're saying is truthful, it's accurate, it's credible. We go through that process every year. So we use our financial auditor, Deloitte and Touche. You can use it, you can use others. We found it very helpful and very resourceful to use our financial auditor for a couple reasons. Number one, they're already doing your accounting and financing. A lot of your data is actually coming from the accounting and the financing world anyway. And believe me, it helped us with, it's almost like a big stick internally, right? So as I'm going to these other different functions, trying to get good data, good stories, good topics to talk about when you have your auditor behind you kind of looking up and they know they're going to be credited or be audited, they're going to give you good data. So it was a great lesson. Plus, just again, over the 10 years that we've been reporting, we've been going, this is our 4th year of going through that assurance process. Just going through that assurance process helps you internally improve your processes and streamline your processes of reporting, of data collection, of measuring. So it's almost like I said, it's having that good third-party check, which is a great exercise. Comprehensive. So when I say comprehensive, I talk about, number one, talking about all our different business units. I see a lot of reports, and there's a lot of companies out there that are very diverse, right? Have subsidiaries, et cetera, and you might read reports that only cover part of their business. And we were that same way for a while, just covering our U.S. operations. So when I say comprehensive, it's number one, making sure that we include all of our business units. So now when we talk in our sustainability report, when we disclose our data in our sustainability report, it's not just U.S. package operations. So I'm including everything in the entire globe for all 3 enterprises. And when we talk specifically about greenhouse gas management, and I don't know if our folks are familiar with Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. And so just real fast, Scope 1 is the fuel. It's basically your fuel that you burn in your buildings and your vehicles, your assets, okay? So if you're burning fuel in your vehicles, if you're burning natural gas or propane or heating oil to heat your facilities, that's Scope 1. Scope 2 would be purchased electricity. And then Scope 3 is basically, I describe it as everything else, okay? It's carbon or it's greenhouse gases that are emitted by other companies or other businesses or others on your behalf due to your business, okay? And that's broken into upstream and downstream. Upstream would be typically things that you're purchasing or as a company, you're doing business travel, purchasing of raw materials, purchasing of supplies, building buildings, maintaining your facilities, disposing of waste. That's all your upstream type of activities. Your downstream activities could be, if you're a manufacturer per se, you have a product, the downstream activities could be that product being shipped from maybe a store location to the end consumer. It could be the end consumer using that product, whether it be electricity or water or whatever. So those are your kind of a downstream activities per se. Disposal of your products is a good example of downstream activities. So to get a real good and accurate picture of any corporation, of your impact to the environment, measuring all 3 scopes is extremely important. We're an advocate of measuring all 3 scopes. We're currently, and it's a challenge, we currently, out of the 15 categories in Scope 3, we're currently reporting on 6 of them, and we're continuing efforts internally to gather data because it is a huge effort to do that. All right, so we have the data, and what we do is we'll disclose the data in all different ways, okay? So just having the data is one thing. So now I've measured it, I've collected all this data, but now you've got to really dissect it. What's the data telling me what to do? Okay, we'll break it out by scopes, we'll break it out by source, whether it's electricity or fuel, we'll break it out by the 15 categories in Scope 3 and disclose that in a way. But then it's deciding, okay, now what do I want to do? What initiatives do I want to work on? Where do I need to concentrate my efforts on as a corporation? So, an example, here's an example of a package. There's a typical package being shipped here in the US. And when you ship a package, 70% of the carbon, okay, is from the transportation side of it, and I'll describe that. 19% is from the brown package cars you see, and the rest is facilities. So when you see that package car pick up that package, right, from your business or deliver that package to your business, that's about 19% of the carbon in that package. The other 70% is going from UPS building to UPS building, in origin city to destination city. It's huge. That's where a lot of our fuel is being burned, believe it or not. People recognize the brown package car and think it's all there, right? Give me a nice electric package car or a hybrid package car and everything's all green, but it's only have a small impact. And then the facilities, though important, I know everyone's a facility person here, is a small portion of it for us, but it's still important to us too. So you could see as you start breaking down the data, for us, our concentration, our initiatives tend to be more on the transportation network side of things, okay? Because that's, if you look at the whole transportation portion of it, you're looking at 89% of the carbon or 89% of our footprint is from transportation. The other 11% is from our stationary facilities. So we have a lot of emphasis on our transportation vehicles. So I've got this data. I've got to figure out what to do with it. again, you want to have metrics and goals and measurements that basically tell your story. Okay, you want to support your materiality matrix, right? What does the outside folks want to know? What's important to the business? What's important to our stakeholders? I want to develop metrics, or we call them metrics, or KPIs, key performance indicators. Okay, these are just some examples. We measure everything from employee injuries, right, to accidents, to water usage, to our CO2 or our gallons per package. We use a lot of intensity metrics. We also use a lot of absolute, where we're disclosing absolute numbers. But we do a lot of intensity metrics, and there's a big difference between absolute and intensity. You want to be able to, and with any business, you want to be able to grow your business. But depending on your sector, depending on your business, it's hard to cut absolute emissions or absolute electricity usage or absolute fuel and continue to grow your business at the same time. So you want to show efficiency. You want to show that I can grow my business, but I can still operate at a lower, call it intensity metric, or lower frequency of doing the right thing for the planet but growing the business at the same time. So intensity metrics are an important feature to any management. When we first started our sustainability reporting and our data, it was very much, like I said, US centric. So it was very easy, very much Excel based. When we decided to go global and start adding 3,000 plus facilities, it just got too much. So a software package, having some type of a software to help manage that data is important. There's a host of different types of softwares out there. I'm not an advocate of one or the other, but it definitely would help. It definitely helps not only with our greenhouse gas management, but we're now using this software package, which we started for greenhouse gas management. We're using this software package to house all of our sustainability data that we report each year. Okay, whether it's, again, accidents, injuries, whether it's community volunteer hours, community giving, everything that goes into the whole GRI template, this software feeds it. Now, and what happens is that globally, right, all around the world, I can have folks feeding into that software package. It makes it easier for reporting, makes it easier for disclosing everything that we're doing. Another way to kind of get some good feedback is ratings. There's a lot of ratings and rankings out there. And there's ranking agencies, whether it's CDP, Newsweek, Fortune. There's financial indexes out there, right? Investors that look at sustainability and decide, how do they want to invest their money. There's a slew of them out there. You can't really be involved with all of them. We've learned that very quickly. You have to decide what's important to your company, which ones you think are important to represent you well. But it's also a good way to get some feedback from externally on how you're doing and what you're doing, okay? And it's a good way to help manage and help control and help focus where you want to go on the different types of rankings. All right. So I've got all this data, I've measured it, I've reported on it, but I still have to do something with it, right? Numbers are numbers, but I still want to do something. So we've developed what's called a greenhouse gas strategy. And we broke it up into three simple, call it topics or buckets, right? First is our transportation. As I mentioned earlier, 89% of our footprint is all about transportation. So working with our transportation network, trying to figure out ways that we're going to, right, reduce our dependency on petroleum, right? Looking at alternative types of fuels, looking at an efficient network. It all falls under that bucket. Facilities, again, we still have 3,000 plus facilities. We need to make sure they're most efficient. We're looking at energy efficiency, whether it's lighting upgrades, whether it's conveyor efficiencies, whether it's renewable energy. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit. And then the customers and suppliers. We talked about the whole value chain with the scope 3 earlier, about the upstream activities, your downstream activities, and impact of every business you have. You have your own operations that you're responsible for, right? But the things that happen upstream, right? Any raw materials you use or anything that happens upstream that's cause of your business, and everything downstream on the consumer end is important. We're in a unique position because in our business, our logistics business, we're probably in the upstream and downstream of all of our customers' value chains. So we're in a position to not only look at what we're doing, but also help our customers and our suppliers, and that's a lot of our focus also. So taking everything that we do internally and then turning it into a business value, a business proposition for the company. All right, so let's talk about some of these initiatives and what we're doing specifically at UPS. So, as I mentioned earlier, again, a big portion of our footprint is our network. 70% of that package is from our network, going from UPS location to UPS location. One of the things that we do internally is what we call intermodal shifting. Okay, and intermodal shifting is, right, depending on the service that the customer wants and what time they want that package to be delivered, will depend a lot on the mode of transportation. I mean, every day we take packages from the aircraft and move them on the road. Every day we take, thousands of packages from the road and move them by rail. Okay, typically air is about 8 times more carbon intensive than road. It's a huge impact. That's really what's driving that 70% more than anything is our airline and the air fuel. Okay, rail is about 4 times less impactful to the environment or less carbon intensive than road. Okay, we are one of the largest rail users. So a lot of people don't know, but if you're shipping a package from east to west via ground, most likely it's going rail. The majority of it is going rail. So being able to shift and fluidly shift between the different modes helps us manage our impact. Our scope one year annual emissions is approximately 12 million metric tons. We avoid 3 million metric tons, 25% of our footprint every year by downshifting and using these other modes, by using rail when we can, by using road as much as we can instead of air. So it's been a big advantage for us. I don't want to talk about our competitors, but things that we could do better than our competitors too. All right, that was the pitch. So our delivery trucks. I'm sure you guys you've heard the no left-hand turn, right, catchphrase before, okay, right? Well, really what that is we're very much technology-wise embedded within our organization. Actually, I tell folks that we're more of a technology company that happens to deliver packages on the side. We have so much technology with our vehicles. What this package flow technology does is we've actually been able to make every package smart. Okay, so every package is basically smart. What happens is as the packages are loaded up into the vehicle every day, the computer is going to map out that driver's route every single day. It's going to map it out. It could be different every day. It's going to give him the most efficient route. And it's routed, right, to minimize left-hand turns. And that's really what that catchphrase, all that is was a catchphrase that came out of this whole package flow technology infrastructure that we've implemented. And of course, what does left-hand turns do? Number one, it's safe. It's unsafe. It could be. It's safer to take a right than a left a lot of times. So safety is one of them. But a lot of times it's wait time, right? I got to wait longer for a left-hand turn. When you have 55,000+ drivers on the road every day, and each one can save a couple minutes, right? That's hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel we can save. It's tremendous. It adds up quickly. So that's where that whole left-hand turn thing comes from. So it worked very well for us. On top of that, we now have what's called telematics. Does everyone can hear me still okay out there? Sometimes they fade away, so I'll try to keep loud. Okay, so we have telematics installed in our vehicles now. Telematics is nothing more than just a host of sensors. It's really on the vehicle. There's multiple sensors that are just tracking everything on that vehicle. When it's going forward, when it's going backwards, when it's stopped, when it's idling, how the driver's using the gas, how the driver's using the brake. It's looking at all the maintenance of the engines of the compartment, the starters, the alternators, the batteries. Right? So we have all this wealth of knowledge now that helps us with many different things. Driver behavior, because driver behavior is huge when it comes to efficiency. Right? We could have the most economic, efficient vehicle on the road, but if the driver's not using it properly, and hybrids is a good example of that, right? The way you hit the gas. If anyone has a hybrid vehicle, you have to slowly go. You don't want to hit the gas, mash the gas. So driver behavior is important, but also we're able to map out vehicles that let's say this one vehicle gets better gas mileage than the other, just for whatever reason, right? We can actually change routes, fluidly change routes with that vehicle one day to the next vehicle. So we're looking at the vehicles. This telematics gives us a host of knowledge that really helps us. And the biggest savings is that I talked about the idle time, right? We know when the package car is stopped, right? When they're idling for a long time, which is nothing but a waste of fuel. I'm getting 0 miles to the gallon when I'm idling, right? Just Just in 2011, it was 98 million minutes of idle time we eliminated because of telematics, which was approximately 650,000 gallons of fuel. So every little bit adds up. But so technology is important. But now, besides the technology, and this is what I call the sexy part of UPS, right? Everyone likes the green fleet, the alternative fuel fleet. We use what's called a rolling laboratory because we know that there's not one fuel or one technology out there that's gonna be the be-all for everything. Okay, we have compressed natural gas vehicles, we have liquid natural gas, we have propane, we have hydraulic electric, we have hydraulic hybrid, we have all electric. We even have tractors that run on biomethane, methane from the landfill. Okay, so we're testing and hosting all different types of technology and trying them out and seeing what works. And we know that, again, electric vehicles work best, right? When you have a daily route that's, less than, 100 miles a day, right? Hybrids work on routes and work on locations where you get a lot of stop and go, so you can take advantage of the braking. Okay, the alternative fuels work best, number one, where you have infrastructure, but also where you have a lot of long distance type of routes, rural routes, okay? One of the things we're seeing now is natural gas. You hear a lot about natural gas, and we're advocate of natural gas. We have a lot of compressed natural gas package cars. Our tractor trailers, we're looking at liquid natural gas. Liquid natural gas right now, when you're looking at a Class 8 vehicle, a tractor trailer vehicle, is really the only viable solution right now that you're gonna get the energy content, substitute the energy content for diesel fuel, right? And without having a humongous fuel tank on the truck. So we have 93 tractors in California right now on liquid natural gas. We're looking at expanding that significantly in 2000 in several other states. And again, a lot of it is, number one, the infrastructure is really a lot of the hurdles right now. Once the infrastructures are in place, it becomes a lot easier. All right, facility management. Well, I mean, a lot of times we have our UPS buildings, and Harriet could be here. She's my expert on the facility management side. But we would park all our vehicles inside the buildings, all our package cars, load them, unload them, all inside. One of our new designs actually has the package cars parked outside the facility where we unload and unload them, right? Minimizes our facility footprint, minimizes our construction activities, minimizes our energy usage for the facilities. We're finding good success with those type of facilities from our old type of structures of indoor. Lighting upgrades, we've done a host of lighting upgrades to our facilities. Our facilities use, basically there's two electricity sources for our facilities, right? Lighting, and the majority of it's conveyor systems. That's really what, our buildings are nothing more than, right, concrete tilt-ups with conveyor systems and lights inside them. But a sortation facility, looking at procurement practices with high energy efficient motors, looking at conveyor belting that has, less coefficient of friction in order to reduce electricity usage. So we have a host of different things we're doing with our procurement purchases in our facility. We're also looking at solar. Solar right now, a typical PPA, a power purchase agreement, a lot of those have an ROI of 15 to 20 years. And for us, we want a 5-year ROI. I mean, that's really what we're shooting for. We have 3 facilities in New Jersey, 2 of them online. The third one is going to go online here in the spring of this year, 2013, where we actually own them, built them, installed them with less than a 5-year ROI. Very successful. Now, a lot of that has to do in New Jersey because of the incentives, okay? But we're continuing to look at other locations where we can do it. We think there's some promise there also. Facility construction specifications, right? We're looking at always putting in responsible construction activities when it comes to our facilities, when you construct new facilities and what we call our up specs or specification packages. Our corporate office here in Atlanta, we just went through, and that's all through the work of Harriet, we just had a gold certified LEED last year. So that was a great accomplishment for us. And then recycling and waste. We've been recycling for a long time, but we knew we could do more. So over the past 3 years, we actually, through the US, have revisited our recycling program. And every single facility within the US, we went back through and revisited. And we were able to reduce our refuse and increase our recycling significantly. Over 16,000 tons recycled from 2010 to 2012. So we're constantly looking at recycling also. All right, so you have all these things that we're doing internally, right? We got our infrastructure for our transportation network, our facilities, but that third part of it was, now what do I do with our customers, right? We do such a great job at measuring, right, our own data, but now because of that, we can go out and we can measure the impact of the environment of every customer's package that ships with us. And that's something we will do if the customer wants. So we can work with that customer, and if wherever they ship their packages, we can actually then calculate their impact to the environment. So that's something that we do. We also, if interested, we'll offset those through carbon offsets. Right? Carbon offsets are nothing more than, right, doing a purchase, doing something over here that reduces the carbon from the atmosphere, right, to mitigate the carbon that occurred over here. So we also will do some carbon offsetting for our customers. There's our carbon offset package right there. So, but also, what else do we do for customers? We packaging. We don't, customers do their own packaging for the most part. We supply some packaging, but we work with our customers. We have a whole group that will work with customers on packaging, right sizing the packaging, using the right materials inside the package, making sure it's packaged and prevented for damage reduction, right? Because no one wants to get their packages damaged. We have a whole nother group that works with customers on again, the distribution and logistics side, taking our expertise with distribution logistics, working with customers on figuring out how they can improve their own internal logistics and how they can become more efficient. So the whole third bucket, taking what we do internally and now, again, making that business proposition, making that business value and working with our customers has been very successful for us, and we continue to work with them. So, all right. So I'm going to kind of leave it open now. Questions, comments? I don't even have a question during the whole thing. Either it's good or bad.
Well, I have a question.
Please.
I'm just curious and very impressed with the steps UPS has accomplished. It's very impressive. What about maintenance of your fleet, your airlines, and your vehicles and stuff? Because everyone knows that maintenance and preventive maintenance goes a long way in making equipment last longer and bringing in new technology and maintenance. It's all changing so fast. Can you speak on anything in your maintenance department and how you apply sustainability practices to that area, or?
How we apply sustainability to our maintenance side of things. Okay, so.
I mean, you have to get rid of oil,
yep.
and oil changes. I just didn't know if it's reached that area.
It has. So, matter of fact, my hat before sustainability for many years through my career was dealing with the environmental compliance side of our programs throughout UPS, whether it's underground storage tanks or the disposal of wastes. Okay, so we maintain our own aircraft, we maintain our own vehicles, we fuel our own vehicles. So we have automotive repair shops and maintenance shops throughout the entire country. And that waste is probably one of our largest wastes that we dispose of. So we try to, for most of our fluids, I say pretty much all of our fluids are recycled. Okay. One of the things we look at when it comes to waste is liability, right? No one wants to become part of a Superfund site. So we have very tight controls on how we dispose of our wastes. Matter of fact, we only have a handful of vendors through the entire country that can even dispose of our waste for us. And we go through a lot of auditing with them. Recycling, we actually spend extra money to incinerate when we can, so we don't have to go to landfills. But mostly recycling and incineration. Yeah. But as far as the maintenance side, like I said, we have a lot of PMI, we call them PMIs, preventive maintenance inspections that we do, whether it's on the aircraft, whether it's on the vehicles, or even on the facilities, right? Through our HVAC systems, our conveyor systems, just to run the facilities, overhead doors. We have a host of PMIs that we do, I'll say religiously, right? To ensure that they maintain, to ensure that we don't want to replace them, but also make sure it's anything disposed of properly. Yeah. Yes?
Do you bring in outside consultants to help you with some of these programs, or are you doing it all within?
Okay, I'm supposed to repeat the question. Sorry about that. I didn't repeat the question. So, are we using outside consultants? Sales pitch right there. I'm not kidding. It depends on. Yeah, we do in some locations, definitely. When it comes to sustainability, right now we do that internally without consultants. When it comes to the environmental compliance side, sure, there's definitely aspects. There's things that become very complex. Air regulations are so complex. You have to use the expertise of other outside folks. So it's a combination of both internal and external. We have, on the environmental compliance side, for our facilities and our management, we have a whole function corporately that manages our environmental programs, call them program managers for the environment. But then in our different operations throughout the U.S. is broken up into 3 regions. So each region will have their own environmental managers responsible for overseeing environmental compliance, whether it's waste, whether it's recycling. And a lot of times they'll use outside vendors also, or outside consultants when need be. Yeah. Yes, Nancy.
Yeah, I was just curious on that materiality matrix with the 4 quadrants. How long did it take you to come to those conclusions of what your values were?
So that process, the process per se was approximately 6 months, okay, but it was repeat the question. How long on the materiality matrix to go through that entire process? So that process itself, from hiring BSR to finishing, was approximately 6 months, but the data that we used to come up with that conclusion was based on years of data that was already in the public domain, right? It could have been, we used data that, again, because you want an outside perspective. So a lot of it was interviews with external stakeholders, and we went through a whole interview process. A lot of it could be, if you remember the ratings and ranking slide I talked about, there's a lot of agencies that will rate and rank you or write case studies on you. So it was years of previous public records by others that we went through and sifted through to come up to those conclusions also.
Were there any real internal battles of deciding what the values, what landed in the right?
So were there any?
Process.
Yeah. So any internal battles or struggles with rating and ranking everything, right?
No, just the
Sure.
right place was to get it right.
Yeah. I mean, so matter of fact, it's interesting you brought that up, because one of the processes we went through was to have key individuals from key functions. Actually, we went through a meeting and threw them up on the board, and everyone said, well, that should be a 10, or that should be a 9, or that's more important, that's not important. So yeah, we went through that, but I think at the end we've came to a consensus, and we actually used, back to our governance structure, right, a lot of those key directors, right? So we've got this committee, this governance structure, we're able to use feedback from those key directors. So a lot of it came from them. A lot of it comes from your upper management, that tells you what's important, right? Through interviews, through our CEO, CFO also, because they have a lot of significant input also, of course. So I'll go here first.
Earlier in your presentation, you discussed carbon emissions and different types of transportation, and air being kind of grossly inefficient compared to over the road. Mm-hmm. How do you balance that with a global culture of wanting things right away? We order something and want it the next day, don't realize that it's tremendously inefficient for the carbon implications. How do you deal with that?
Okay. So how do we deal with the higher carbon intensive modes of air?
Right, and that's competition in your business is getting something there faster for
right.
cheaper.
So service, I mean,
how do people know?
Yeah. So how do people know? Most people don't know. First of all, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to business, it's all about the cost to serve and how fast I'm going to get it there. Cost and service. I mean, that's typically the 2 main priorities. So depending on the circumstance, right, need and service, and wanting something the next day, or wanting something the same exact day, right? If I need a part in New York this afternoon, right, I'm going to get it there. I'm going to have to fly it there. So first of all, I don't want to say when you compare it to the other modes, it's less efficient, okay? But here's my sales pitch. When you compare us to other airlines, we're the most efficient. There's no doubt about it. So you combat that with having an efficient airline. One of the things that we did early on was get rid of all of our inefficient aircraft. There's different types of aircraft, right? Just like you have different vehicles that have different MPGs, right? You can get a nice hybrid that's going to get you, 45, 50 miles an hour. You can have that nice Ford F-150 that's getting you 18 miles an hour, right? So having the right aircraft is also key in putting the right aircraft on the right route. So we do things like that. We have a whole host of initiatives. I didn't go into a lot of details, but on the air side, because that is our most carbon intensive, we have a whole host of initiatives that we're doing on the airline side to minimize the carbon impact and, of course, maximize, because the biggest cost is fuel, right? So we want to, every time I can reduce my cost for fuel, I'm helping the environment at the same time. So, but you still need it there tomorrow. You're still going to fly it there. Now, as a business, You want to get it there the most efficient way, though.
But you don't tell the customer, if you wait, it'll be a more sustainable operation.
You know,
That's not necessarily the message.
no, I don't want to say that it's not the message, because there's, when we're working with customers, we want to get it there the cheapest way, right? So as you downshift different modes, it's also less cost to you as a customer. So we work with our customers, right, to give them the most value. But there's some things you just need there tomorrow, and there's some things that you can wait 3 or 4 days to get there. And it's our job and our customer service folks' job to work with each customer to come with that good balance. So, right, yeah.
Yeah, before settling on the GRI format, were there any other established standards that UPS tried out and rejected, or was it all just purely internal?
So was there any other standards on the reporting side that we used besides GRI? So no, since our very first report, we followed the GRI protocol. GRI is really the most globally recognized reporting structure out there. I don't even know if there are many others out there. Most folks use the GRI format for reporting. I mean, you could just report anything you want in a sustainability report and don't have to follow any format, but we found that we wanted to follow format. That goes back into that whole, right, those 3, credible, comprehensive, and transparent, back to the credibility portion, right? You follow recognized standards. That's something that we wanted to do. So for us, it was following the GRI right off the bat. Yes. Yes.
How do you balance the discussion between procurement and going for the greenest source?
Sure. So how do we on the procurement side, how do you balance cost versus sustainability and green, right? And there's no doubt that on the procurement side, it's all about cost. I mean, that's their number one objective. That's what they get measured on, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's always a challenge. So one of the areas that we're working on, that third bucket of our strategy, right, is customers and suppliers. It's an area that we still need to improve on internally. Everyone does. We're getting better at the procurement function, making better choices as to making things more green. When it comes to the facility side, again, we're speccing out things that are typically more green, more sustainable. But again, yeah, go ahead.
The thing that you need to do is a lot of the procurement people are just new to the sustainability realm of things, and so you need to have the conversation with them to make them understand the power behind the sustainability aspect of making their purchases and looking at it as a long-term type of commitment. And there is a procurement oversight now that helps with the sustainability picture that a lot of the procurement people are starting to get educated in. That's a national program. So if you're having those conversations with your procurement groups, make sure that they're plugged in and involved in that. It's a national organization for the U.S.
What's it called?
I'm trying to think of what it was called. I went through it when I talked with our corporate group when we were doing the lead certification for the building to make sure that they were plugged into it. They were already in it, but
I don't know. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll get that for you. Yep.
Yeah.
Great question. I think definitely.
Sure. Yes.
Life cycle costs are those important for you?
I'm sorry. Say what
Life cycle.
Life cycle costs.
Costs of the different things you purchase or.
So our life cycle costs important to us. Yes, I think back to I'll relate it back to the whole scope 3, because that's the whole purpose of scope 3, is looking at the complete life cycle of everything, right? From raw materials, from extraction out of the ground or wherever it's coming from, to production, all the way to end consumer use. So that's why we started down the process of the scope 3, evaluating, measuring, and now figuring out, the whole life cycle. We know that, so yes, we're taking life cycle into account, So for examples, even when our vehicle purchases or vehicle types of fuels, we have a whole host of different types of technology and fuels, because it might be better for the environment at the tailpipe, doesn't mean that it's the whole life cycle is better, right? Could be whether that's natural gas, whether that's electricity, whatever. So you can have electric vehicle, and yes, call it zero tailpipe emissions, but there's still carbon, right? If I've got the electric vehicle in a location that's burning a lot of coal, as opposed to maybe placing that vehicle in a location where I've got solar on my facility, or where it's extremely the energy is a lot greener per se, we're going to do it. So that's why actually our electric vehicles, we actually place them in locations where we know that we're not using coal. So a lot of them are in California just for that reason. So, but, and then as far as the other purchasing type of things, for us, our biggest purchase, believe it or not, is transportation. Being a transportation provider, so we're not purchasing a lot of raw materials because we don't manufacture things. So if we did, that would be per se. But for us, it's all about transportation. That's our biggest purchase. So we're constantly looking at that. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned sustainability software.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how long you've been using it, how you use it, and maybe the functional roles within the PS that actually?
Okay, so sustainability software, how we use it, how long we're using it, and the roles internally. We went out and purchased our sustainability software in 2008. Okay, so we've been using it for 4 years now. Our primary objective was really for greenhouse gas management. Again, having a large footprint and measuring all of our facilities and vehicles worldwide, it was just too much for a Excel spreadsheet. It was way too much for an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, so I needed something that was multi-dimensional. So that was our main purpose for purchasing the software. It has expanded to capture all of our sustainability data. So any piece of data that we put in our sustainability report is being housed in that software. So for us, so some folks will use it because they don't have any other existing systems. We're using it more of a clearinghouse and collection of data. Okay, it's not meant to replace existing legacy systems. So, like for example, fuel usage, right, is all kept on the accounting side, in the accounting systems, right, because it's purchased. It's all kept there, but I'll extract what I need and from that into my sustainability software to calculate my greenhouse gas. Same with employee census or employee data. We have a whole HR system that houses that, but I'll pull out what I need for what I'm going to report on per the GRI. So that's what I'm using the system for. As far as how we do it, how we're using it internally, a lot of it is extracting from external existing systems, which I can do at a corporate level. A lot of it is having folks around the world maybe just manually put into it that it's not in other existing systems. So it's a hybrid of different types of approaches of what we're using it for. Our sustainability function, the sustainability function for us is housed under our engineering function. So I'm under the engineering function, right, which does all of our facilities, our environment, all the plant engineering things is where our sustainability is housed from. So our function owns and kind of controls that software internally. But we have support from the IT side if need be. I don't know if that helps or answers your question.
Like it's absolutely mission critical.
It is mission critical now. I mean, I couldn't imagine living without it now doing our report. So, yeah. Yes?
What is the software that you're using? Is it a proprietary software? Is it?
No, I have no problem sharing. So we personally use what's called Enablon. Enablon's the company. So they're a French company, originally from France, or French company, but very much become a leader in that software space. There's many other. Again, I'm not here to pitch that one software package over others because there's a host of them out there. You have to fit what's right for you. But for us, that's the one we chose. Yeah, you're very welcome. Yes?
I don't want to be negative the hybrid thing, but you look at how much it costs to build a hybrid up front versus a normal vehicle, because if you're spending 2 or 3 more times the energy to build a hybrid car, where is the payoff to drive around the cruise?
So
Or a certain range in design, quickly, whatever.
Right, so looking at alternative fuel vehicles and the cost to fabricate them, to the energy used, right, to fabricate them, is it really paying off? Again, as I mentioned earlier about return on investment, everyone wants a good ROI under 5 years, or even better if you can. A lot of alternative vehicles, we don't get that ROI. We never get the ROI. We know that. That's why we've labeled it that rolling laboratory approach. But we also know that we can't be dependent on petroleum right into the future. So we've got to look at other avenues, and hopefully at some time, and our goal is to work with different manufacturers on different technologies and different fuels, so that at some point they can become more viable. We know that they're not there today, and we know that we're not getting a good ROI in a lot of those alternative vehicles we use. We don't do it for the ROI. We're doing it for, again, trying to work with the manufacturers so that it could be a future alternative for us. Yes.
Hey, Alex. So please join me in thanking Patrick.
Thank you.